And welcome to the What the Nuck podcast, the podcast for Canucks fans. I'm your host, Dryden, alongside my good friend and co-host, Prabby. Well, Prabby, Canucks are 3-1-2. They currently have 8 points, and they have the same amount of points in as many games as last season when they went 4-2 at the start of the year. Are you panicking like a bunch of fans are, or are you happy with their play as of late?
Yeah, as of late, yeah. The last like 3 games have just been an absolute just breath of fresh air, man. I remember going into game number 4 without a win, and I was like, "Oh gosh, like I don't know how much longer I can put up with this." And our fan base is so toxic. It's fun, but it's also like bad at the same time. Like we didn't get a win in the first 3 games, and there were signs like of us dominating, but we just couldn't do it. And the whole fan base is like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" Like everybody started poking fun at the Canucks, like they don't have a win, they don't have this. Luckily, Edmonton followed suit. I think that's like the biggest fan base that would be coming at us,
Yeah.
but they were the exact same. Like they were struggling as well, and it's nice that the team now is back to 500, or technically they're above 500 with the way NHL does it. But no stress now. I would like to see them do it against some bigger opponents. The Florida game, as much as they deserve that win, I would say missing Barkov and Kachuk is massive for the Panthers. And then the fact to beat the Flyers, I think it was in the following game, is pretty nuts. I feel like we never ever beat the Philadelphia Flyers, and then
Yeah.
followed it up by a win against the Chicago Blackhawks, which is like you kind of expect them to get a win there. But yeah, a tougher opponents up ahead, especially with Pittsburgh. I know Sidney Crosby's just on another tear this year, especially Malkin too. Like the team looks good, and yeah, there's not much else to say about that, man.
Malkin is having a revenge tour of a season, man. I think he has 12 points right now. Might have 12
It
points,
doesn't make
but
doesn't make any sense.
just
He's
wild.
like 39.
Yeah.
Go away, bro. Come on.
No, him and Crosby, man. So much respect for those guys. Like the fact that they're still out here doing it in their late 30s, it's fun to watch. And honestly, even though that they're older, like we grew up with watching those guys when they were in their prime and they were superstars in the league. So it's always fun to watch them whenever they come into town or whenever the Canucks
Yeah.
play them. That being said, I think you just nailed it, man. I was a little upset with how they lost the first couple of games through Calgary and the Philadelphia game,
Yeah.
where they had the lead in both, especially the Calgary game being up 3-zip and 4-1 at one point, to
Mhm.
then lose that game. And then same with the Flyers game, had the lead for the majority of the game, and you end up losing it. Now, yeah, they were extra time, sure, but you have to be winning these games against those kind of
Yeah.
opponents because then you get guys like Tampa Bay that come in, and Tampa Bay is probably the best star powered team we've faced so far due to what you said with Kachuk and Barkov not being there.
Yeah.
Um, so we haven't honestly, the schedule's been quite nice for Vancouver. Playing Philly twice, Calgary, who is kind of a bit on a heater, no pun intended there.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the Cats have been the other team, and then Chicago. So Vancouver's
Yeah.
had it pretty light, which is quite nice.
And they're all so spaced out right now.
Yeah,
Like, I don't remember the last time we started a season with like these many breaks in between games. It feels weird, and it kind of sucks because like it just feels like I can't get into the groove of watching Canucks games. I know it's gonna get better next week. I'm pretty sure we actually play like 3 times, and it's every second day for the next little bit. But like, yeah, it's been kind of tough to get into the groove of Canucks games just with the lack of like consistency from the schedule right now.
100%. I feel like it's great to have, especially with the new guys. It's nice to
Yeah.
get them into the systems, and Taka has a lot of opportunity along with Adam Foote and Gonchar to practice with the team, work on, battle drills, and just try to get the systems down for everybody so everybody's on the same page instead of
Hmm.
playing a zillion games at the start of the year, being on an 18 game road trip, and like it's or 18-day road trip. It's nice
Yeah.
that Vancouver actually has this for once. I will say the schedule has been butter for them.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
being said, who would have thunk having we're on a 3-game win streak right now. We have 3 days off. We play against Pittsburgh tomorrow.
At home.
At home. The fan base
Yeah.
is absolutely at each other's throats right now with a little bit of drama between two big elephants in the room, one American, one Swedish, Elias Pettersson and JT Miller. Come on down. Prabby, you want to describe what happened during this fateful day of practice?
Um, I'm not like too sure about it. I haven't read up on it as much just because it's so toxic. And like as soon as the story broke, did kind of try to avoid it. But like for this purpose, I probably should have checked up on it. But basically, Miller and Pedersen were just going at it like throughout the practice. And then there were some verbal words exchanged and maybe some pushing. And Miller called Pedersen a baby or something like that. And the whole fan base is just up in arms about it. And like I'm seeing a lot of like, siding with Miller on this, and I'm like, who cares about picking sides, man? Like,
Mhm.
it is what it is. But teammates fight all the time, dude. Darlene beat the shit out of Peyton Krebs like last week in practice, right? It happens. It's not as much. It's not as big of a deal. It wouldn't be as big of a deal in another market.
Yeah.
That's the thing. In Toronto, Montreal, I'll even say Ottawa, Winnipeg, Vancouver, and Calgary,
Edmonton.
and honestly, all the Canadian teams.
Yeah.
It's a big deal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because we follow this shit religiously, and I don't think it's as much of a deal as everybody's making it out to be. I think like Pedersen obviously understands where like Miller's coming from. If you remember last season, I think it was Nylander who called Marner a baby. Like it happens, right?
Call
Like
them a little bit more than a
they don't.
baby, but yeah.
Yeah, you're like stop fucking
Yeah,
crying,
yeah.
right? But yeah, it happens. Like it's not like these two dudes. Like I don't think they hate each other from what I've like read. I know Miller said that they've been very public with their relationship, and Miller basically said a while ago that like, hey, like you're not going to be best friends with all your coworkers. That's just how it is. Like we're the complete opposite, but like we're working on it,
Yeah.
right? And Miller's like, I just don't think that you can take this in a negative way. And I think it's good for the team to have that intensity in practice. And it's going to be good for Pedersen too. But at the end of the day, like I see where Miller's coming from. And I don't know if you saw the video of one of their battle drills from today. It was pretty intense.
I
Yeah,
did.
PD was there. PD was in his like kitchen the
He
whole
was
time.
in his
So
kitchen. I saw that video.
yeah.
That was nice to see, to be honest. Yeah,
Mhm,
you exactly what you said. It was nothing more than a very small scuffle. They
mhm.
exchanged a cross check and a slash. Miller calls
Yeah.
him a baby. That is it. Okay?
Yeah.
And then Canucks Twitter or Canucks social media fans just go nuts and they try to explain everything that's wrong with Miller and Petey and they try to psychoanalyze like there's some therapist or it
Yeah.
just they're making a way bigger deal than it is for sure. Um, I will say this is what I got from earlier through Elliot Friedman's podcast, 32 Thoughts. He was basically describing, and I believe this was from today. He was saying describing the difference between sales and service. And he's like, sales is we want your business, so we're going to do whatever it
Mhm,
takes to get you there. Service is after we've signed you, we don't need you as much. And everything is great when it's in sales. Everything is much harder when it's in service. So Pedersen, at the end of the day, last season, he signs an 8-year, $11.6 million deal. He's a Canuck. He's a great talent. Now he's in service. And even though the Canucks signed Pedersen, they think there's another level that he can reach and they don't
mhm,
want management like Talkett, Alvin, Rutherford, and Co. to give him this advice on how to be a tougher, meaner, better player, leveling up. They want it to go
mhm,
through the players. Miller is a guy that takes that very literally, and he's going to show Pedersen some tough love, as opposed to Quinn Hughes. Like Quinn Hughes probably has a different way to do it. It's not as I'm going to use harsh, but I think it's a wrong word. Harsh as Miller is, right?
I'd say not as direct.
Not as direct as
Uh,
Miller. That's a better, yeah.
yeah.
So stuff like this is going to happen, and we have a direct example from last year before the start of the year when Garland and Dakota Joshua went after it. And look at
Mhm.
their relationship now. They're absolutely best of friends, man. They're
Best of
boys,
friends.
So
They're serving coffees at Tim Hortons together these days.
yeah,
That's you don't just get there from like point like
no,
that's not something for the Canucks. That's something you want to do with your best
you
friend.
got
There's no other person I want to serve coffees with than you, buddy.
yeah, couple double doubles out here. We're laughing. But yeah, no, I don't have an issue with what Miller did at all. And you actually nailed it too. Ray Ferraro was saying this on Donnie and Dolly yesterday. You don't if you have 25 people in a room, you're not going to be best friends with all of them. That's just a
Mhm,
fact. That's just how it is. They don't have to be best friends. And people saying that this or people are worrying about if Pedersen doesn't have any friends on the team. It's like, don't. You're reading into things way too much. This is
mhm,
absolutely nothing. If anything, this benefits Pedersen because he's a competitor, as is Miller. Pedersen wants to prove himself. And the only guy that's going to be able to turn this around is Pedersen.
Yeah,
I did kind of want to touch on uh, yeah, actually, sorry, there's one quote here before we move on to just individual players here. This is from Martin St. Louis regarding criticism. I don't know if was when he was a player or when since he's been a coach, but he said, "Don't listen to criticism from people who you wouldn't ask advice from," which
that's a bar.
that is a bar, and
That's a bar.
that's what Pedersen should be doing. Like all these
I
people online, if like I don't know, there was like something about his friends sending him like stuff that
Yeah.
people say, and it's like, you know, who cares?
There's some
You're the guy
yeah.
making the money. You're the
Mhm.
professional athlete. Go out there and do it. Who cares what people say?
There's talks of him still fighting through the knee injury from last season.
Yeah.
Um, and, like, kinda like Vancouver, is there a certain point that you would want them to look at that and just be like, "Hey, maybe sit out for a bit," like, try to figure it out?
So here's the thing. Our our team doctors, just from the track record they've had over the last few years, with saying things are fine when they're clearly not, or saying a guy's going to be
Mhm.
back in 2 weeks and he doesn't show up for a year.
I think that's more to do the saying a guy's gonna be back is more to do with they just don't want people to know,
No,
right? Like
I guess so, but I have when they say things, I'm taking it with a bit of a grain of salt because of just
yeah,
things from the
fair.
past. However, I just don't think the coaching staff would let him play if it's this bad. You know,
Yeah.
I will say, just skating wise, it seems like he's like he doesn't take one tees like he used to. Like Prabby, he's played 6 games here. Do you know how many shots he has?
I'm gonna go with 6.
He has 9 shots in 6 games, which to me he should be shooting the puck a little bit more. And I know he's a really good playmaker,
Yeah.
but he hasn't like here's a guy, for example, like Besser is a volume shooter, but and Miller is a big shooter guy as well, right?
Mhm.
They will
So
shoot the
it's Quinn.
puck. So yes, Quinn takes a lot of shots now.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah,
I actually wish he would pass it a bit more than just fire it on net sometimes. But
yeah.
I wish Pedersen had that in his game or added that to his game where the puck doesn't have to be a perfect pass. Like if you're getting it and the puck's like rolling a little bit, just fire it. I just want to see
Mhm.
him hit it a little bit more, like he's waiting for that perfect opportunity at times and it seems like it's kind of stabbing him in the back a little bit
Yeah,
or he's missing
yeah.
opportunities. I will say the Chicago game,
I was just about to say.
yeah, the playmaking immaculate. He could have had 4 apples, 5 apples. Guys just weren't finishing his
Yeah.
passes.
No, he was cooking it up in the Chicago game, which once again it is Chicago, but it's nice to see. Like I also think like along with the 4 apples, he could have had a goal or two as well. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see now where it goes. Right? Like this has happened in practice. He looked good in the Chicago game.
Yeah,
I think he just needs to get one. Like
yeah,
one's got to go his way, man,
yep.
right? Like and then I think he takes that monkey off the back. It's gone. And then I think we get to see if he's really, really out of it or if there's a big problem. I think if he scores a goal and then goes back to this, I think then it becomes a really big problem where you're sitting there, you're like, okay, there's something like fundamentally wrong with this guy.
Mhm.
And we got to figure this out. Like the management has to figure it out
Yes.
because if Pedersen scores and it goes back to this team's not going anywhere, right? Like we're not,
If he doesn't
we might be
score,
able
yeah.
no, if he does score and he goes back to this, like,
Oh,
this
I
team's
see.
not winning a cup.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
team
yeah.
is gonna be hard pressed to win a cup if
Mhm.
we get the Elias Pettersson that we saw for the first 3 games of the year,
Yes, yeah.
right? Like, it's just not gonna work, and that's 11.6 on your books. I think he's gonna figure it out. I know, like, it's beating a dead horse at this point with the amount of, like, everybody saying that he's gonna figure it out, he's gonna figure it out, but it's like, if the Chicago game's any sort of, like, situation that you can believe in, like it's this. Like
Yeah.
he's gonna
Yeah.
figure this out.
Mhm.
And the scuffle at practice, I think, is just gonna drive him even like harder. And honestly, maybe guess what? Maybe it might just lead to him throwing the gloves tomorrow, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
who knows?
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe he throws some hands and he beats it out of somebody, and like we get to see a new side of Pedersen.
Yeah.
I think what they're going for, there's no negative thing that can come from this unless they push him too far to the point that he doesn't wanna be here anymore, right?
Yes.
That's where I see it being a problem because at that point, you're looking at the Matthew Tkachuk situation.
Yeah.
You lose all leverage,
Yeah.
all leverage. This guy hasn't played good and he wants out and he has a massive
You
contract. The
lose that
team they're
trade.
not yeah, you're not recovering from that trade,
Yeah.
right? So
No, and
it's I
that's a great point there, to be honest. Like, yes, I want him to be pushed, and I think to an extent too. Yeah, you're making 11.6. Like, you're gonna get some criticism if you're not putting up the stats to show for it, right?
mhm,
So
yeah,
I think some criticism is 100% valid. I think some of the things that people say online and the threats that people say online is absolutely ridiculous, and absolutely do not do that if you're doing that.
mhm,
Like, stop. But
yeah.
he does deserve a little bit of criticism. Like, you have guys like Miller right now that are for sure injured and they're not taking faceoffs, but Miller will just clock in 3 points against Chicago because he can, you know? Pedersen's going to get that eventually. The points are going to come.
I actually do have to say though,
Yes,
I will say Miller 2 years ago was public enemy number 1
I know.
in Vancouver,
Now he's beloved.
and he was 27 years of age, right? I
Yeah.
think he was. I think now he's just turned 31,
Yeah.
or he was 28, or was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago where he was just hated?
Think two. Yeah. Last year was our first good season. I think it was, yeah, it was the year prior.
Okay. 2 years ago, so he was 28, 29. We'll go with that, right? Pedersen, I'm pretty sure right now is like 25.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the guy's obviously going to go through growing pains. Like only players that really have smooth career when it comes to stat lines is these generational talents. You're looking at the guys like McDavid,
Yeah.
Ovechkin, Crosby. Honestly, you could even say freaking Malkin at that point, right?
Yep.
Everybody else goes through some hiccups.
Hmm.
And the fact that we're on his ass when JT Miller didn't become the player that he was till probably 2 years ago at the age of 28 or 29, let Pedersen breathe a little bit. And I understand he has the big contract and he's got some big expectations to live up to. Let the guy breathe and let the guy figure it out,
Yeah.
right? Because now we're to the point we've won 3 games in a row and people are complaining about Pedersen, which once again, rightfully so, he hasn't lived up to that contract. The last 3 games we've won
Hmm.
and Pedersen hasn't been at his best. If he can figure it out, this team's going to a whole new level,
Yeah.
right? Let the guy breathe. He'll figure it out. And if he doesn't, worry about it then.
Hmm.
Don't start thinking ahead and saying he's not going to figure it out. If he doesn't figure it out, 5, 10, we'll say 5 to 7 games from now, we'll worry about it. Right now, he looked good in Chicago. He looked fired up in practice. Let's see what he does tomorrow.
Exactly. And yeah, to go back to that Chicago game too, he draws that penalty against Connor Murphy where absolutely dangles a piss out of Connor Murphy. He was gonna
Mm.
take a shot and then he just got hauled down. He's
Connor
had
Murphy,
yeah.
Connor Murphy, public enemy number 1 in Vancouver just for that.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
let him shoot.
Yeah,
Let him
yeah,
shoot.
yeah. Let him cook. But yeah, no, it was nice to see that. Again, I haven't seen him do his
Mhm.
deeks in a while. That was the most like normal he's looked in a while. I don't want to stay on him too much longer here. But yeah,
Yeah,
no,
me
I
either.
I agree. I think he's gonna figure it out. He's had 3 good games in a row now. And I think another thing too, obviously, I think because you see the price tag of 11.6, people are like, oh, he's not getting any points. He only has 3 assists. Like, what does this guy do? People are taking for granted just the way we do when it comes to Quinn Hughes and the way he plays elite minutes every night, and he's a dynamo, right? Pedersen's two-way game is absolutely incredible. He has one of the most controlled exits on our team right now, leaving our own zone. Like, the defense is right there. Yeah, I want him to be a little bit tougher on the puck. I want him to shoot more. But as far as
Yeah,
his game outside of that right now, I'm loving it, and I love his new line mates. I think Connor Garland there is great.
yeah,
Maybe we could take Hoglander off and put DeBrusque again there just to see what's up. But I think him having consistent line mates now for the first time in a while has definitely helped, or it's going to help here. He's going to get more confidence with them, more chemistry.
yeah.
Garland gave him that beautiful that was against the Flyers, beautiful backhand pass from behind the net. That's pretty much Garland's office. That's not Gretzky's office
Yeah.
anymore. And then Pedersen gives it to a tap in for Hoglander. Like they're going to work
I
plays like that.
I do agree. I think DeBrusque on that line would be really, really solid. I think,
Yeah,
especially honestly, Miller and Besser. I'd love to see Hoglander on that line. I feel like we haven't seen that much, and I just want to see how that kind of works,
yeah,
right? Like, but yeah, no, I'm completely on your side. It's gonna suck when Dak comes back, and then like you got to sit there and be like, man, do you play Garland with Joshua or do you play like Garland with Pedersen? Honestly, for the contract Garland's making, he's got to play with Pedersen.
I agree.
If he's working well with Pedersen, like as good as that third line was, you find somebody who could potentially do what Garland does, and you figure it out there. But I think,
Why sorry.
go ahead.
Why
No, go
why
ahead.
don't we talk about this guy actually right now? Yeah. Connor Garland, man, has went from, like I love that line of Teddy Bluger, Dakota Joshua, and himself. But Connor Garland's leveled up, man. He's a top six guy right now. He's rolling. He's
Mhm.
got 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points. He's been an absolute dog. I every game I've watched with Gunveer and Nate this year, like whenever they would go in together, like Garland and Hoglander, and who was the other guy in that line prior to Pedersen joining it?
Ratu.
Yeah, Atu Ratu. I was like, oh, the puck's just not going to leave the zone. They would cause absolute havoc on every team they were facing. It was hilarious
Yeah,
to watch. The forecheck was so good. He deserves to be there. He's getting the points. He's getting power play time as well. It's awesome to see.
yeah.
Um, I
PP one time.
Yeah, PP one time, which is
It's
crazy.
crazy.
But I think once Garland or Joshua gets back, I agree. I would like to see a line of Joshua, Garland, Pedersen. But I think give Joshua a couple of games to get used to the ice time again.
Yeah.
Playing with Sherwood, get 40 hits a game on that line.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, got to be good.
That is another. I don't know if we're going to talk about this, but I did want to quickly mention shout out to that fourth line of Bluger. Is it Bluger, Sherwood, and
Bluger, Sherwood,
Hyman?
Heinen. Yep,
Dude, that fourth line. Also,
dogs.
especially Teddy Bluger.
Yes, dude.
Teddy Bluger has been a menace to start this year, and I absolutely love it.
I know. Yeah, he's been a
Like,
dude. The Latvian king. He's fighting.
he,
Who did he fight in the Florida game?
oh, it was another Latvian
Yeah,
guy.
another Latvian guy. But anyways, after the game, they go. They fought each other in the game. They get the 5 minutes or whatever for fighting. And after the game, he comes into the Florida Panthers locker room, gives the guy a big hug, and they're just chatting.
Just
Like,
chat it up, yeah.
I love hockey, man. It's so funny.
Yeah. No, Vancouver's depth over these last 3 games has really shown their worth.
Yeah,
And honestly, I'd even say over the last maybe 4 games, like their depth, we looked at this lineup before the season started and we said, okay, forward core, that's deep.
yeah,
That is deep. Like 1 to 4, they can roll that. The first 2 games of the year, especially game number 1, you were like, okay, it was the big boys doing things. Game number 2 didn't look good. Game number 3, better. Game number 4, they started picking it up,
yeah.
right? And now you get to see the 1 to 4.
Mhm.
There is some things that we want to talk about, but honestly, like I'm gonna let you continue what you were saying or move on to the next subject because
Yeah.
yeah.
No, dude. It's actually the third line currently. By the way, Pia Suter's actually still coming back from like he's healthy, but I don't even know what the injury was. It was like right before the season started. It was during the
Mhm.
preseason game against the Oilers. Nice to see him get his first goal of the year against Chicago. There, maybe a little
Yeah.
confidence booster. But as of right now, the third line with Bluger, Heinen, and Sherwood is awesome. Congratulations to Heinen for getting his first 2 goals of the season as a Vancouver
Yeah.
Canuck.
Yeah.
How long do you think Sherwood can keep up the 10 plus hits a game? He has 31 hits, Pravi, in his last 3 games.
Ay, 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 ay. Man, not that long. I feel like he's played such a taxing type of hockey.
Yeah.
Um, but he's one of those guys that like tomorrow when we're playing the Penguins, if he took the night off and just forechecked without throwing some bodies, I'd more than understand.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't want him
Like,
to tire himself out. Like I want this for
yeah,
the playoffs,
right?
but man, he is electrifying to watch right now. And he's just a little pest. Like did you see that video of him in the Flyers game where he does a little flyby on Konechny? He just like laughs
Hmm.
in his face. Konechny gets pissed off, goes away. Another clip. He's in front of Scott Urson and he's like he's making fun of the defenseman
Sam.
behind. Oh, sorry, Sam Urson. And
Hmm.
he's making fun of the defenseman behind the net. He just gives Urson a little tap with his stick, and Urson was just fed up. He puts his hands up
He
in the air, like, "What the hell is this guy doing?" Oh, I love him,
he
man.
uh he did it against Chicago as well too. He gave the goalie a little whack.
Yeah,
And he
no,
just laughed.
he's great TV, and he's scoring too, like
Yeah.
that offside goal or alleged offside goal.
Yeah.
Did you get the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, he tagged up before he touched the puck when he brought it back into the zone.
I watched it like a zillion times with Nathan and his dad, and I'm like, that's 100% offside. And then finally, when I watched the replay again, and Shorty was explaining it to me, explaining it to the viewers like I was a 5-year old. totally understood it. What a
Yeah.
I don't know if he meant to do that in real time, but what a smart player. That's
I
awesome.
quick thing about like Sherwood. I remember this is for like you and Gunny.
Yeah.
I remember in our playoff preview
Mhm.
episode that we did. Um, I remember when we were talking about like notable players to watch, and you said the whole Mo thing and everything. I remember the guy that I said was Kiefer Sherwood,
Yeah, yeah.
and I remember Gunny was like, "Who the fuck is Kiefer Sherwood? What do you mean? This guy just doesn't get it." And it's like I was like, "Yeah, Kiefer Sherwood's a menace out there." And now that he's on the Canucks, we can see it fully. The guy is a menace out there, dude.
Mhm.
Like throwing the body, and he's got some like pretty good offensive instincts as well for a guy who's on the fourth line, but it's crazy how quickly he's become a fan favorite for this team, and I think, like, especially in the playoffs, we're gonna just learn how valuable this guy truly is.
Oh, 100%. Um, to that, that's so funny because like even Hughes was saying like he was happy that the management grabbed Sherwood so he didn't have to worry about him during the playoffs because he was running everybody in the playoffs. He was a bit of a thorn in Vancouver's side. But yeah, that line is just playing smart hockey right now. Like Bluger is kind of what like Suter did last year to me currently, like this
Mhm,
season. Like he's just a smart player. He knows where to be. He's not the most skilled guy, but he has enough smarts to be in the right spots at the right time and to capitalize. And so far,
mhm.
especially in that last game against Chicago, this that line was it. Um
He's also fast.
yeah,
I
oh
didn't know
yeah.
Teddy was that fast, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um
we're getting really far
we are
into
here.
this, and we've talked about 2 things.
Okay, we got a couple more players here I just want to talk about. Obviously, we already talked about Miller enough, but Miller's starting off with another great season, 6 points. Hopefully, that injury doesn't get any worse. Like I would like him not to play on that, just with the way the Canucks are rolling. But if he's able to play on it and Besser could take his faceoffs, go for it. That's the next guy I wanted to talk about. Your boy Brock Besser, starting off or picking up where he left off last year. 4 goals and 2
Yeah.
assists. He's been a volume shooter again this year. He's just been ripping the puck, man, and just such a smart like two-way player. He could back check good. He can keep the puck in with Miller. Like he's had another great start to his 2024-25 campaign here.
Yeah. He man, they gotta sign him ASAP.
I know. Yeah, yeah.
ASAP. Yeah, dude, like, that whole the Miller-Besser combo still looks really nice, and,
Yep.
there's not much I can say about Besser that you just didn't just say. He's scoring goals, right? And the thing I love about Besser is he's gotten so much better on the defensive side of the puck.
Oh, I know.
Like it's so nice, and like having a goal scorer who can like not he's not a Mark Stone or anything like that, but he can like he'll hold his own. Like if he gets hemmed in his own zone, I'm not worried about it, right?
No.
Um Vancouver's got to sign him quick
Eight
because
by eight.
his 8 by 8, like or something along those lines, like maybe even like 8.15 or some shit. But sign him quick because if this guy puts up another 40 goal season, maybe even like 45 goal season at this point, like dude, you're in for it tough. You're in for it really, really tough. And honestly, like you kind of got to hope, like the JT Miller contract. I'm gonna say it, age aside, that contract's a steal, right?
Steal and a half right now, yeah. Rock a little Lankinen Seelov's action here. Let's just talk about the goaltenders quick. Lankinen has stolen this job from Seelovs. Not that,
Theft.
I'm not gonna lie, that first game, I don't think Seelov's gonna stop a beach ball if he tried. Like the shots from the
Yeah.
point, dude, every shot from the point was like a landmine. I was scared to look. Like I was worried he was gonna go in. Sure enough, a lot of them did. I think the Tampa game, the boys just weren't ready. I think he played all right in Tampa. He gave him a chance to win. Tampa was just
Hmm.
10 times better than us. But Lankinen, man, he's got 3 wins on the season now, 1.7 goals against average, and a 941 save percentage. He's
Yeah, that's nuts.
and a shutout too. He's been
Yeah.
electric.
Yeah. That's what you need, especially with a guy like Demko out.
Yeah.
Man, man, what a steal!
Oh,
What a
yeah.
steal by Patrick, man. Oh, end of the summer comes in, and just absolutely, he's got some of the better goaltending stats of the season so far, and making less than $1 million a year. Like,
Tidy
can't ask for much more than that.
piece of work, my friend.
The problem becomes when Demko comes back.
What's the problem since he loves down?
Perfect. We're on the same
Yeah,
page.
yeah. No, there's no issue. I would like to see C Loves get another game here eventually, which he will once they start going
Yeah.
every second game. And this is the thing too, right? Like Lankinen's never been a starter, neither is Seelov. So, maybe he
Mhm.
gets a little tired in game 5 or 6 here, right? And then maybe we got
Yeah.
to go back to Seelovs. But for the now, Lankinen is the guy. He's calm, cool, and collected in that crease. He looks big too. Like every
Yeah.
save he makes, I'm just like, man, he covers up a lot of net. Great to see. Little worried about the Demko thing now at this point. It sounds like December.
I read January.
Yeah, like I don't like that. That scares me a little bit. Like I
I'm okay with it.
he's apparently learning to live with this injury, and it makes me wonder,
Mhm.
like, is he never going to be able to goaltend the way he used to? Is he going to have to modify his goaltending strategies? Because if that's the case, maybe this is all speculation. Obviously, I'm just a
Mhm.
fan at the end of the day. Does he become a worse goaltender then? Can he not sustain what he was once before?
Mhm. I'm in the same boat as the Pedersen thing. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna wait, you
that's
know?
a good way to live. Then I got to do
It's,
that.
it's just worrying about it's only gonna make me, like, more, like, an antsy about it,
Yeah,
more tense about it, like, at the end of the day, me worrying about Demko's injury isn't gonna make Demko's injury better, it's not gonna make it worse, it's not gonna do anything for his recovery, like,
yeah,
when he says he's good to go and we get to see him in the blue paint, and I will judge my thoughts and what I see then, right? Like,
right.
there's not much else I can do right now, like, it's not like I have him in fantasy or anything where I'm like, "I need this guy to come back, please.
Hmm.
You're savior of my season." But he's working on it, and from what I've read, it's more of a, strength and stability thing. So it's he can do it, but how long can he do it for?
Yeah,
It's more of like conditioning it to be able to maybe keep his goaltending uh like stance for a full 60 minutes or something like that is
yeah.
seems like what he's working on right now.
Hmm. No, hopefully he comes back soon. But as far as right now goes, I'm currently knocking on wood. Lankinen, you're a god. Keep it up. Sea loves help out when you're needed. Um, and
Yeah.
then good news on injury front here. He's still in non-contact jersey. They just got to get clearance from the doctors for when he could play, from what it sounds like. But Dakota Joshua is roughly 1 to 2 weeks away right now,
Yeah.
which is awesome to hear.
I'm team take as much time as you need.
Yep.
It's especially for what happened to him. Like, I just remember that day I was at work and then like that notification came up on my phone and like, man, I was shocked. I was like, holy cow. Like,
Hmm.
especially after signing that, like a pretty solid deal with the Canucks. So I'm excited to see Dak back in the lineup.
Yeah.
Where you play him, I think, is one of those things that can be figured out. Obviously, with Pedersen and Garland, that might be kind of fun.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, he's got to getting back into game, not game shape to say, but like a game mentality, right? Like competition, full on competition mentality. Like maybe rocking him on the third or fourth line for a little bit would be good for him. But
Yeah.
yeah, dude, at the end of the day, like a guy like Dakota Joshua, like the team's gonna miss him
Hmm.
regardless, like no matter what, right? Like what he provides on the ice is so fun to watch as a fan and probably so fun to be a part of as a teammate. So
Oh, just
yeah,
watching him in the handshake line too, in the tunnel when the
oh
boys
yeah,
are done their road trip there. He's giving hugs to Teddy Bluger, Garland. Like, he's definitely a big part of that locker room. So for him to come back, it's gonna be
yeah,
pretty great for this club. Adds more depth to the forward group.
yep, yep.
Probably takes out a guy currently that needs to be taken out as well. Do we want to get into it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Give
Yeah, send him
me
to the A.
Yeah. Please. Like
For
I
the
I
love of
don't I don't
God.
understand. Okay. Give me your take, Frabby, on the Daniel Sprong and Arshdeep Baines scratching, not scratching right now. Those are the only two
Daniels.
players that are bubble guys to me right now. I guess Amon would be as well, but Amon adds penalty kill value to this team, and he's a center, like you're saying.
Yeah.
These two wingers, what's going on?
I'm team Daniel Sprong. I love Arshdeep Baines. I think I think he has a future in the league, but I think, man, he's been given opportunity and opportunity and opportunity, and he has 0 points to show for it, and he's had some defensive collapses. I think the last game that he played, I can't remember which one it was exactly, but he looked good out there. My only problem is that like you have a guy like Daniel Sprong who's brought in. He has like what 2 points in 3 games that he's played or something like that, and
Sprung
he
is
looks.
just the one goal, but yeah,
But does he? I feel like he might have an assist as well, right?
double
Like,
check. I think it's just one, but
um, whatever it is, like Daniel Sprong hasn't made any mistake to the point that I've been like you say, like talk it's gonna bench him. I haven't seen it, and I feel like he's been solid on the defensive side of things. He hasn't like absolutely been searing the team.
he's been better. This is where I have my gripe, and we talked about this prior, but when Kuzmenko was on our team and
Mhm.
Kuzmenko made a mistake, it's like, damn, that was an egregious turnover. You're not playing for the third period. And I understand why I was
Yeah,
upset because I feel like there are players in this league. Ovechkin got better at his two-way game, but Ovechkin was one of these players at the time. Obviously, he's an extreme example of being a superstar player, right?
yeah, yeah,
You need these players just to let them play their game. That's how
yeah,
Kuzmenko gets all his points. That's how Ovechkin got all his points at the time. Sprong needs to play a little bit more defense and be more accountable, sure. But I have not once seen a Kuzmenkoian mistake from Daniel Sprong. You know what I mean? I haven't. I've
yeah,
been watching him like a hawk. I've seen a couple of plays where I'm like, oh yeah, that was he should have been back checking there. But in the Flyers game, because he got scratched in the Chicago game, I was like, oh, the Flyers game, he was back checking. The boys won with Daniel Sprong in the lineup. That's a winning lineup. Keep him in for the next game. And then lo and behold, Archie Bains is in again. And I like Archie Bains' hustle, but I just don't think he has the finishing touches that an NHLer like Daniel Sprong provides.
yeah. I feel like you can't say much else. Like Baines, once again, he's gonna be in. I think he'll be a solid middle six guy in the show,
Yeah.
but I just don't think he's ready for that. And I think letting him cook up in the A, like he had one good year in the A, like one really good year, which was last year.
Yeah.
I think if you keep letting it just let him simmer down there, I think he's gonna turn out really nicely. But I want to see Daniel Sprong in this lineup just solely for the offensive prowess he provides.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, Baines has gotten himself into good opportunities to score. He's just whiffed on a couple of one timers where I'm like, if that's Daniel Sprong in that same position, may not
Mhm.
be a goal, but that shot's going to be on net every time. And I just
Yeah,
think he has a bit better IQ that way. But I'm grasping at straws here because they're on a 3-game heater and I shouldn't be getting locked into something like this if they're winning.
yeah,
Let's quickly go over the defense here. We briefly talked about him already, but yeah, Quinn Hughes off to another incredible start. He's literally shooting every puck he gets. He has 6 points, tied for the team lead in points, 1 goal, 5 assists. Um, Again, I genuinely think everybody takes his games for granted at this point. Like when I watch him skate, I'm still in awe by it, but it's just such a common occurrence. I'm like, oh, there's Quinn Hughes. He just did a little ditzy dangle on someone. He's
yeah.
just playing amazing.
Nope, 100%. I think there's not much to say about Quinn Hughes. I think a lot of his game like scorecards after
Yeah,
like post games is
yeah,
just off the charts.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like it's pretty nuts to see him.
I
He's always
blink.
at like
It's like, is this the same card? Like, yeah, like he's just
it's
always at the top.
I think one time last year there was, I don't know if it was Hughes, it was some player, but they were like somebody like one of the companies that does those scorecards. They like, yeah, so we had to like extend the card for how good this player was. It
Yeah,
might
yeah.
have been Hughes.
It might have
And
been. Yeah.
so I was just like, yeah, Quinn Hughes, he's on another level. I think Hronek's a perfect complementary piece. Obviously, Hronek, I feel like, has also had a little bit of a slow start this year,
Yeah.
just solely off the points.
Yeah.
But Vancouver's got 1 and 2 defensemen locked down, and I think the big thing is they need to focus on number 3 because that second pair and that third pair has been tough to watch. Will say
Yes.
Eric Brandstrom,
Come on down.
you're looking good.
Yeah.
You're looking good. All right. He's been looking, he hasn't gotten cooked on the defensive side. A couple times where I'm like in his own zone, I'm like,
He plays
right. But
defense like I do in the ASHL with the boys.
yeah,
It's pretty,
right.
yeah.
So there's been a couple times where I'm like questionable, but he hasn't gotten burned for it yet, which is, hey, if you haven't gotten burned for it, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I think the risk to reward is worth it because there's nobody in our bottom 4 defensemen that can move the puck out like this guy does. So I'm willing to take a turnover, especially like occasionally take the turnover, especially if Lankinen's gonna like you have faith in Lankinen to
Yeah.
make the save, right? So
Well, and
yeah,
just breaking the puck out. Like, I love them both to death. Obviously, Forbert left for personal reasons recently, so hope everything's okay there.
yeah,
But since Forbert has been out of the lineup, Juleson was in for a couple of games where he was not good. Let's just put that lightly. But Vinny Desharnais is back into the lineup, and I think having a guy like Brandstrom being able to get the puck out for him and puck move like get it out smoothly, I think that really
Mhm.
helps a guy like Desharnais or Forbert. You can't have two monsters on the back end like them that can't move the puck. It causes so much havoc for the forechecker. Just create way too much on them. And yeah, I think
Mhm.
having Branson there's a perfect complementary piece. I will say, like you're saying with Roenick having a slower start, and I know they're a great pair. I love seeing Hughes and Roenick together. That's like the best. I would kind of like to see Roenick pull his own weight on the second pairing and help
Mhm.
out either Myers or Susie, and then one of those two go with Hughes. So there's
It would
less
have to
mistakes.
be. It would have to be.
Myers?
It would have to be with Susie,
Oh, with Susie.
and then
Okay.
you risk having Myers on your top pair, and we all know Myers. I love Myers, but on the top pair. That guy gets shadow roamed
Did you
all the
see that
time.
man's pass to Besser? Little no look through the legs.
Yeah, but that's
That
not
was in the
it.
game. That was
That was like
the
his.
game.
That was like his fourth minute of the night, right? Like as
No, it
soon as this
wasn't.
guy starts, yeah. As
Uh,
soon as this guy starts, the way I think you can do it is if you want to rock Hughes and Heronic like 23 minutes a night
Yeah.
or some shit, and then occasionally have them out there together,
Mhm.
and then other times split it. So like a guy like Myers doesn't play any more than like 17 or 18.
Yeah.
I think you can do it that way, but Myers on the top pair is more scary for us than
Mhm.
it is for the other team. And that's tough.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I don't know. I just think he's I don't know. I just have a soft spot for Myers at this point because he's not
No,
making 6 mil anymore, and
love
I
I
feel like my
literally
criticism has died from that.
love the guy. Love the guy. But when he just gets man, he's not I don't know. There's something about him.
Something
There's
about
something about him. It's just and when as soon as he gets to the top pair, he just turns into an idiot. Like
yeah, fair
love the
enough.
guy. But yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to add for the Vancouver Canucks here before they face off tomorrow versus the Pittsburgh
Pittsburgh
Penguins?
Penguins. I'm trying to think. I don't no, don't think so. I think the team's back on track. And honestly, actually, one thing I did want to give a shout out to Canucks Twitter. You guys have been on fire.
Yeah, bringing in the heat.
Yeah, dude. Whether it's memes or just like overall vibes and stuff, minus these like last 2 days, but overall vibes and like even like Canucks media, like Donnie and Dolly, dude.
Yeah,
It's a good time to be a Canucks fan. It's just so much like fun going around and stuff like that. Minus these last 2 days, and like yeah, that's all. That's the only thing I wanted to add to it. It's been
yeah.
fun.
The only thing I wanted to add as well is, yeah, the reason Gunbeer's not on the pod anymore is because we had a little scuffle. I ended up pushing him. He slashed me back, and he just hasn't been back since. So,
Yeah,
hoping for a speedy recovery there on Gunther's part.
yeah. He called him a big baby,
Yeah.
and then Gunny just asked for a trade.
Yeah. But no, Gunbeer actually will be making a appearance eventually soon here. He's gonna drop in.
Yeah,
But yeah, no,
busy guy.
a busy guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, Vancouver's gonna be playing against the Pittsburgh Penguins tomorrow at 7 p.m. So tune into that. We will have another podcast up next week sometime. But yeah, the Vancouver Canucks are 3-1-2 with 8 points, and they're having another great start to their campaign. You could
yeah.
follow the What the Nuck podcast on Instagram and X or Twitter at What the Nuck Pod, and our YouTube channel and TikTok at What the Nuck. Have a great day, folks, and we'll talk to you soon.